Guys, the U.S. Supreme Court is getting ready to weigh in on the legal battle over President Biden's student loan forgiveness plan as millions of borrowers remain uncertain about their debt relief. Yahoo Finance's Rick Newman is here with the latest. Rick, what do the borrowers need to know?
I want to talk about Sheetz versus Wawa. We're going to have that segment someday. I'm from Pittsburgh, and I just visited Sheetz, and it is definitely taken. Okay, forget about that. Student debt, right? Is that what we're here to talk about?
Sure, why not?
So late on the day, last Friday, the Biden administration asked the Supreme Court directly to just cut to the chase and weigh in on these. There are at least two legal challenges that are now blocking debt relief of up to $20,000 for up to 40 million people. So the Biden administration wants to, instead of just going every step of the way through the courts, the appeals courts up to the Supreme Court, it's just asking the Supreme Court to weigh in and resolve the whole matter. And number one, the Supreme Court has not yet said that it will take the case. It's a good guess that it probably will because of its significance and its importance. But there's also no guarantee that the Supreme Court will uphold the Biden student debt relief. And it's a matter of some debate whether Biden has the legal authority as president to simply wipe off this debt without Congress passing a law. Congress could do it for sure if they passed a law, but Congress was not able to do that during the last 2 years. The votes were not there, even on the Democratic side. So Biden did it through executive action. So this is a mess. This whole thing is a mess right now. And this comes as the moratorium on paying back your student loans ends at the end of the year. That started at the beginning of COVID in 2020. The government said we're going to pause all repayment of student debt, but that is supposed to end at the end of the year.
How much, if this doesn't go through, Rick, how much of a hit does Biden and the Democrats take in 2024?
If it doesn't go, first of all, it depends on who wins the blame game. So Biden can clearly say, look, I tried to do this, and the conservative Supreme Court struck it down. And we know the Supreme Court is 6-3 conservative, and that's, of course, associated with Republicans and with Donald Trump. So whoever wins that blame game is part of it. But I think then this becomes a very large campaign issue in 2024, because Democrats for sure will be campaigning on, well, the Supreme Court struck this down. This is a huge amount of relief for 40 million people. It particularly affects younger people. So this would suddenly become a big part of the debate for 2024. And Democrats would say, you need to elect us because we're going to get in and take care of this by passing a law.
So there's the question of taking care of this by wiping out the debt, but there's also the question of all of this debt that's now being accrued, right? Is there, what about on the other side of it and fixing the system that allows people to take on all this debt in the first place?
Why would we do that? Why would we fix the system? It's a great point. And I think if there's legitimate criticism of Biden relieving up to $20,000 of student debt, it's that he didn't pair that with anything that would fix the system. This is not a simple problem, by the way, so it makes sense that you would help people get a college education. It supposedly is good debt to spend it on education. But because college educations are subsidized, that raises the demand for college education and jacks the price up, which is why we have tuitions at private schools and that I don't know, what are they, $80,000 and up these days, and even public school education. A lot of times that's $20,000 or $40,000. So nobody has addressed the unintended consequences of when you subsidize something, demand goes up and the price goes up.
For this not to go through, what type of economic detriment are we talking about, especially as we head into yet another potential recession, regardless of how deep or how mild it is, based on what we've heard from some economists? You've now got a generation in millennials and even in the forgotten generation, perhaps, that's still paying off their student debt now years and decades after. That's going to have to forego family formation, foregoing or at least putting off some of that equity ownership in homes and buying homes.
I mean, I think you just answered the question, Brad. I mean, we're talking about 40 million people who would qualify for this debt relief. And on average, the savings would be $300 or $400 a month. Some people would have their debt completely wiped out. Some people have a lot more debt and it would just come down. This is a complicated issue. I mean, there's also the fairness question. So yes, if people don't get this debt relief, it is going to affect all those things. It's going to be people paying more just to pay down their debt and not starting families, not having kids, not buying homes, can't afford to do all those things. But on the other hand, you have a lot of people who say, what about me? I paid off all my debt and I don't get anything out of this, or people who worked their way through school. So I think everybody would have felt better. I think you hit it, Julie, that everybody would have felt better if Biden did this, but he reformed the system somehow, made it harder to qualify for student loans, for example, or put some limits on the amount of debt you could take out so people don't end up with $150,000. But we don't really solve problems in this country. We just kick them down the road.
Well, or as you said, it's a very complicated problem to solve. And so that's why, you take
There
the
is that.
Rick Newman with the call to action. Fix the system. Rick
Yeah.
Newman, thanks so much.
Bye, guys.